This video is called How the Ultra Wealthy Stay Lawsuit Proof Step by Step. And in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to show you the exact legal structures the 1% use to make themselves nearly untouchable, even when they're staring down the barrel of aggressive lawyers, lawsuits, and financial predators. Now, before we go any further, let me give you the payoff early, because high net worth people don't like surprises unless it's a tax refund or an unexpected upgrade in first class. The ultra wealthy don't win lawsuits because they're lucky. They don't win because they're charming, and they don't win because they know someone. They win because their assets aren't reachable in the first place. I'm about to walk you step by step through the exact structures that make this possible, including the same trust structures we've set up for clients for nearly 30 years. I'm Kevin, the CEO of the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and our affiliated company, Asset Protection Planners. We've been in the asset protection field for 34 years, and our companies have set up more Cook Islands trusts than any firm in the world. When it comes to creating lawsuit-proof structures for high net worth individuals, this is what we do every single day. Now, before we jump in, if you appreciate straightforward, to-the-point education, go ahead and hit subscribe. You want a guru who helps you make money, and you want somebody who helps you protect it, because what's the point in making it if you lose it all in a lawsuit? And I ask you this not because I need an ego boost, because I want you to be empowered with the very tools that the wealthy family use to stay safe. And now let's get into the real mechanics of becoming lawsuit-proof like the 1%. Most people think lawsuits are decided in court. High net worth individuals know lawsuits are decided before court, based on structure, not stories. Think about it like this. If someone tries to sue a billionaire, they're not actually suing the billionaire. They're suing the legal armor wrapped around that billionaire. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most attorneys won't tell you. Lawsuits don't follow money. They follow weakness. If your wealth is exposed, someone will try to take it. If your wealth is protected, they will move on to somebody else. This isn't theory, it's pattern. So let me give you a quick anonymized example from a client we helped. Here's composite case study number 1, the contractor with the invisible assets. A successful contractor with about $12 million net worth got blindsided by a subcontractor claiming breach of contract. The claimant's attorney looked for assets, investment accounts, real estate, business assets, equipment, bank accounts, but everything was already structured. Properties had equity stripped and they were encumbered. Bankable assets were inside of a Cook Islands trust with a Cook Islands LLC underneath of it that we established. Operating assets were held in his company, not personally. The lawyer actually said, and these are his actual words, "There is nothing here to take." The case vanished. Did he win because he argued brilliantly? No. He won because he was lawsuit proof before the lawsuit happened. Now, here's the cliffhanger in a minute. I'm going to show you the exact offshore trust structure that makes this possible step by step. But first, we need to understand why domestic structures don't work anymore. Whenever I tell someone that domestic structures like Wyoming LLCs or Nevada trusts aren't enough for high net worth individuals, some people look at me like I just insulted their favorite football team. Look, domestic tools are fine, but they're not designed for high stakes legal wars. And here's why. First, a U.S. judge has jurisdiction over you. And if a judge wants your money, they can order you or force you, threaten you with contempt, or freeze your assets. You can't protect assets from the person who has the power over you. Number 2, domestic trustees must obey U.S. court orders. No trustee wants to go to jail for ignoring a judge. So if a judge orders them to hand over your assets, guess what happens? Number 3, domestic laws have too many loopholes for litigators. I mean, after all, who writes the laws? Lawmakers, most of whom are attorneys who go in there and write the laws for the benefit of their own profession. Charging orders, reverse veil piercing, constructive fraud arguments, turnover orders. Brilliant attorneys exploit these like open windows in an unlocked beach house. And remember, your enemy isn't the system. Your enemy is the attorney on the other side getting paid 30 or 40% of whatever he can take from you. That's a strong motivator. Number 4, U.S. courts enforce U.S. judgments. They can garnish it. They can seize accounts. They can freeze transfers. They can make your life extremely uncomfortable. And that's why the ultra wealthy go offshore. Yes, they start with domestic structures, but they finish with something far more powerful. And now here's the payoff I promised earlier. Let's go ahead and walk through the exact offshore structure step by step. Now, this is the blueprint we've set up for clients for nearly 30 years. If you've ever wondered how billionaires stay safe, this is it. Step number 1, the Cook Islands Asset Protection Trust, represented by this purple rectangle. If you've watched other videos, you've probably seen this illustration before. So this is the foundation. This is the strongest fortress in global asset protection. Why? Because U.S. judgments don't apply here. If somebody gets a judgment against you in the United States, or let's say if you're in the UK, Canada, Australia, wherever, the Cook Islands simply does not care. They don't recognize it. They won't enforce it. In fact, like I say, we have clients all over the country, all over the world, and they treat this as legal scrap paper in the Cook Islands. If somebody wants your assets, they must start a brand new lawsuit in the Cook Islands. And let me tell you, attorneys absolutely hate this. Why? Because they must hire an attorney in the Cook Islands. It must be paid up front, no contingency allowed. Legal fees can run $400,000 plus. The burden of proof is extremely high. The standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, a criminal standard. Fraudulent conveyance claims expire in a very short time. And the courts favor the trustee, not the creditor. And that's how the laws are written. That's why they do. So this is why no one has ever successfully breached a properly structured Cook Islands trust that we've set up, not once, in nearly 30 years. And that's why the wealthy use it, because it works. Okay, step number 2, Cook Islands LLC. And you've probably seen this before if you watched other videos. Cook Islands LLC inside the trust. And this is where the magic happens. We place a Cook Islands LLC inside the trust. That's what holds the bank account. And here's the brilliant part. You're the manager right here of that LLC when the waters are calm. So that means this: you hold the checkbook. That is, there's no checkbooks offshore, but you hold the keys to sending wires. You can log in and see your account. You control your investments. You run your accounts. You manage your assets. You maintain day-to-day authority. And this gives clients a tremendous feeling of control because they have it. But step number 3, the trigger event. When a lawsuit hits you, and only if a lawsuit hits, something very special happens. Management switches from you to a licensed, bonded offshore company law firm. Lawsuits or whatever threat could happen to your assets. You step back, they step in, right here, trustee company. They step in, and now your assets are under the legal control of a foreign trustee company, very highly regulated, vetted. Like I said, we've been doing this for 30 years, never had a problem with any lack of integrity, perfectly integrous situation every time we've dealt with the Cook Islands trustees. And like I say, we've set up more of these than anybody in the world. So a foreign jurisdiction that's beyond U.S. court reach. A U.S. judge can stomp, they can shout, issue orders, glare dramatically over his glasses. It doesn't matter. The trustee is not subject to U.S. jurisdiction. Trustee in the Cook Islands, that is, trustee company law firm. And they're, like I say, they're licensed, bonded, insured, and everything. So we've structured it this way for decades, and it's why these trusts are so reliable. This duality, you in control while things are calm, and the trustee company in control during storms, that's the invisible superpower of this entire system. Okay, let's talk about assets inside the LLC. So we put the LLC inside the trust and the bank account here. See, it says LLC down here. See, LLC holds bank and investment accounts right here. So what that means is this: assets inside the LLC can be under your control when things are calm. But when the legal threat escalates, these assets that are an international, very safe bank, and there are places like Switzerland, in the Cook Islands itself, Luxembourg, Singapore, Liechtenstein. And these are some of the strongest, safest banks in the world. If you look up the Global Finance, they post a list of the safest banks in the world. And the safest banks in the world aren't in the US. I think the safest bank in the world is something like number 43 on the list, something like that. There are much stronger, safer banks outside the US than inside. And again, some of the strongest banking jurisdictions in the world, we just mentioned, again, you remain in control when things are peaceful. The trustee only steps in if legally necessary. So here's an example how a high net worth family avoided a $7.2 million judgment. So here's an anonymized composite example that shows this structure in action, a real life story. We had a family with a net worth around $18 million. They owned real estate, a distribution company, and several investments, and they got hit with a massive lawsuit involving a supplier. The plaintiff sought $7.2 million. Their domestic attorney told them, you should settle. If this goes badly, you could lose everything. And then the plaintiff's attorney looked into their assets, and this is what they found. Real estate, heavily encumbered with equity stripping liens that we had established. Operating business, properly structured and insulated. Investment accounts, held by Cook Islands LLC. Ultimate ownership, a Cook Islands Trust that owned that LLC. Jurisdiction, completely outside the U.S. reach. A week later, the plaintiff offered to settle for pennies on the dollar. So why did we do that? Not because we, quote, hid anything. We didn't hide assets. Everything was totally disclosed. Everything was legal. Everything was structured properly. What's hidden can be found. What's protected, even when it's found, is protected. And that's the key thing. They couldn't attack what they couldn't reach. So, okay, here's what you should protect first if you have between $1 and $20+ million. High net worth individuals in the United States almost always have the same weak points. If you're watching this video, chances are you have at least one of them. Number one, real estate equity. This is the number one lawsuit in ag. Solutions: land trust to own the property privately, LLCs if it's a rental property as the beneficiary of the land trust for extra protection, and equity stripping liens to strip the equity out of the property. So that's the solution. We equity strip to legally encumber the property with mortgages. Initially, it could be held by a Cook Islands Trust. And then if needed, we get a third-party lender to purchase that mortgage and put the proceeds in your offshore trust. Number two, bank accounts and brokerage accounts. Solution: place them inside of your Cook Islands LLC. Okay? Your Cook Islands LLC owns the bank account, and your Cook Islands Trust, of course, owns that Cook Islands LLC. Number three, operating company assets. Solution: don't commingle personal wealth with personal wealth. Keep them separate. Clean and compartmentalized. Number four, personal holdings. Boats, exotic cars, aircraft, artwork. These must be held in appropriate LLCs or trusts, depending on the liability risk, and we encumber them with UCC1 liens, initially payable to your Cook Islands LLC, that can be purchased by a third-party lender. Proceeds goes into your offshore trust, so they're truly legally encumbered. Number five, high liability professions and businesses, physicians, contractors, dentists, developers, CEOs, investors, and people with large online footprints all need stronger protection than a basic LLC. Okay, next, the truth about looking broke versus being protected. Some people think the goal is for you to look broke. That's wrong. Looking broke doesn't stop lawsuits. Lots of people get sued. The goal is to control everything and own nothing, legally and safely. Your legal tools own them. You control it. Ownership creates liability. Control creates safety. And that's why the wealthy place assets in the right structures. Trusts, LLCs, holding companies, liens, equity stripping, layered entities, and offshore structures, but they maintain control. But legally shift ownership to structures the courts cannot penetrate. So that's how you stay lawsuit proof. Now, for those nitpicker, yeah, but people, you can still be sued. Lawsuit proof doesn't mean you can't be sued. You can sue you anytime. What we're talking about is when you get sued, your assets are protected. That's what we mean by lawsuit proof. So if we're picking words, there I just defined what I'm really talking about. So I've been doing this for 34 years. I've seen it all. But here are three mistakes that I see over and over again. And here they are. Mistake number one, waiting until they're sued. When people get papers, the papers hit, it becomes damage control. Asset protection should be done before trouble, not during trouble. Like you don't buy a boat insurance as your boat is sinking. Okay, mistake number two, depending on domestic structure. Wyoming LLCs are good tools. Nevada entities are solid, but they're not lawsuit proof, not by a long shot. Mistake number 3, have everything in their own name, having everything in their own name. If you own property, cars, boats, bank accounts, investment accounts personally, you're exposing yourself. Shift ownership to the right structures and suddenly you're not the target anymore. Okay, here's a few final pro tips for staying lawsuit proof like the 1%. And I say this as the CEO of a law firm that's been doing this for 34 years. Again, 30 of them setting up Cook Islands Trust, 34 years total. So pro tip number 1, don't be your own worst enemy. Stop posting your lifestyle online without protection in place. Success attracts lawsuits. Visibility increases risks. Okay. Pro tip number 2, spread out the liability. If you own 5 properties, don't put all 5 of them in one LLC. That's like carrying 5 Rolexes in one hand while running through a crowded bar, running through a back alley in a bad part of town. Crazy. Pro tip number 3, protect cash flow, not just assets. Your business income needs shielding too. Structure your operating company properly and contact us if you're serious and not just curious. We can help you do that. Pro tip number 4, use offshore when necessary. This is not about hiding. Again, it's not about tax evasion. It's about jurisdiction, not secrecy. Pro tip number 5, work with experts who actually do this every day. We've set up more Cook Islands Trust, like I said, than anybody in the world. Nobody argues with that. People in the Cook Islands know that. And I can tell you, this is not a DIY project. If you try to build legal armor on your own, you end up with cardboard. Okay, next, how do we help clients become lawsuit proof? At Lawyers Limited, at our law firm, and Asset Protection Planners, which is a brand that our law firm manages, it's our brand, we design the entire structure. Cook Islands Trust, Cook Islands LLC, U.S. LLCs, holding companies, equity stripping, domestic and offshore accounts, operating company protection, tax neutral structuring, full compliance, trustee services, and ongoing support. We have tax people that can help you make sure you're doing things right tax-wise, tremendous tax reduction by our professionals. Our team handles everything smoothly and confidently. So if you'd like a structure like the ones you've just seen, you can visit us at assetprotectionplanners.com. It's not a push, it's not hype. It's just a resource if you want to do it. If you want to do it the right way. Here's a closing words. You've just seen exactly how the ultra wealthy stay lawsuit proof. It's not luck. It's not loopholes. It's not wishful thinking, but with structures that have been tested for decades and held strong in the biggest financial storm. So if you want the same protection for yourself, the kind that keeps billionaires safe, then you're exactly the kind of person we build these systems for. I'm Kevin, the business guy, the CEO of the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and Asset Protection Planners. Stay safe, stay protected, and stay lawsuit proof like the 1%. See you next time.